All right, ladies, we are continuing on in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. We are working with others, page 97. Never avoid these responsibilities, but be sure you are doing the right thing if you assume them. Helping others is the foundation stone of your recovery. A kindly act once in a while isn't enough. You have to act the Good Samaritan every day if need be. It may mean the loss of many nights' sleep, great interference with your pleasures, interruptions to your business. It may mean sharing your money, your home, counseling frantic wives and relatives, innumerable trips to police courts, sanitariums, hospitals, jails, and asylums. Your telephone may jangle at any time of the day or night. Your wife may sometimes say she is neglected. A drunk may smash the furniture in your home or burn a mattress. You may have to fight with him if he is violent. Sometimes you will have to call a doctor and administer sedatives under his direction. Another time you may have to send for the police or an ambulance. Occasionally you will have to meet such conditions. We seldom allow an alcoholic to live in our homes for a long time. It is not good for him, and it sometimes creates serious complications in a family. Though an alcoholic does not respond, there is no reason why you should neglect his family. You should continue to be friendly to them. The family should be offered your way of life. They should accept and practice spiritual principles. There is a much better chance that the head of the family will recover. And even though he continues to drink, the family will find life more bearable. So this page has a lot. And in that first paragraph, all of the different things that could be an interference with your pleasures, interruption to your business and to your home life. My children understand that we have the life we have as a result of the work I do in my program of recovery. But sometimes I get out of balance. Sometimes I get way too far on the service scale and I don't have balance in my professional or my home life, and it's hard. There's ebbs and flows. Sometimes we find that we have taken on more, and sometimes we find we maybe haven't had anything. There's some days where I just don't want to pick up my phone, but try to keep a balance. It's that, the little home, work, recovery balance. We can always equate it to that triangle. And make sure your family understands that this is very vital to our recovery is working with others. And I've just explained it to my children that way. And so they understand. My partner knows because he's one of us and also very active in service. So even if we're traveling, if one of us has to speak or hop on a Zoom or take a call, we understand how vitally important that is. I have pretty much visited all of these places, police courts, sanitariums, hospitals, jails, asylums. I've spoken to social workers in a case conference with a sponsee who's working to get her children back to speak on what they're doing for their recovery. The list is infinite. There's a lot of different areas on the spectrum of things you can do in working with others. And one rule of thumb is I'm always honest. So if someone says, hey, can you write a letter to the courts? I said, I'm going to be honest. If they're not working the program fully, I'm not going to write that they are. If they're not attending 3 meetings a week, I'm not going to write where they are. So we always have to remember honesty is the best policy. Yes, we want to help people, but we're not helping people by lying for them. And then at the bottom there, talking about the family. Is Leslie on here? Leslie, I don't know if she's on today. But, that paragraph really speaks to me of Leslie in my heart, where, we still want to carry on. And even if our spouse is non-alcoholic or maybe a heavy drinker, they too can adopt these spiritual principles. Or we can adopt them and walk and hope our family comes along as well. This is where working with a sponsor who understands is very, very important, as well as you can attend Al-Anon. Myself, as an alcoholic, Al-Anon is not a very fun place to be sometimes because they're talking about me, but I also dealt with an alcoholic, so I needed to have some tools in that toolkit too. Never, never, never a bad thing to add tools to our toolkit. It helps us to be able to help others. And that's really important because that's what we need to do, fit ourselves to be of maximum service. Questions, comments, additions? Suzanne, got you.
Hi, Kimberly. Suzanne, alcoholic. Glad to be here. I was doing service in the fall for a ladies group here in Vancouver, and I burnt out. I was completely depleted, and so I really appreciate you talking about balance. And another girl before me who was running the same meeting, she had to go for a blood infusion because she was so burnt out. So we really have to, especially women, we're caretakers. And, I love the lifeguard analogy. We always have to take care of ourselves. So this week I went into God, took a couple days off just to pray because I was being depleted. My mother broke my anonymity. So I was really upset with her. And I have tools now to deal with it. So I'd like to learn about Al-Anon because I don't know anything about it. But that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you. And I mean, I can speak a little bit from my personal experience. My first portion of time in the fellowship and working my program, my husband, separated at the time, was going on a downhill slope. And my initial reaction to him was the alcoholic reaction. And after this process, somehow I naturally started to shift more into compassion and spiritual principles on its own without help from Al-Anon tools. And so my verbiage started to change. The way I approached situations started to change because I was leading with my spiritual principles, not with my reactionary ones, because those ones weren't so pretty. But yeah, and sometimes it's needed for the balance to get off whack. So Christmas time, a lot of people struggle through Christmas, and sometimes I feel a lot of weight on that, being a support person who does take on a lot. And then you catch it and you're like, whoa, I'm taking on too much, and you feel that angst. And like the beginning of COVID, I was working 7 meetings a day, twice a day. I had sponsees every hour on the hour in between, and it was a lot. But I'm humble enough and I have that humility to say, hey, wait, I've taken on too much. I can't help you right now, but I have someone that can help you. Or in sense of the meeting, I was able to say, I need more people to step up and be co-hosts. How can I make that happen? And it's just, it takes time. It takes time to get those skills. But number one is just having that humility to be able to say, hey, I need help. Can someone help me? Because we're not the best at asking for help as a group of individuals, but it's okay to say I don't know, or I'm not capable right now, but I know somebody. That's also helping, because you could be detrimental if you don't do that, and then you're making more of a problem. All right, I don't see any more hands or people waving at me. Catherine, were you reaching for a hand? Okay, I see this and I'm like, is someone pressing a button? For the type of alcoholic who is able and willing to get well, little charity in the ordinary sense of the word is needed or wanted. The men who cry for money or shelter before conquering alcohol are on the wrong track. Yet we do go to great extremes to provide each other with these very things, when such action is warranted. This may seem inconsistent, but we think it is not. And I have this analogy. I like my analogies. You think of the driver on the highway who's pulled over with a flat tire and he's sitting in his car. Not a lot of people stop to help him. But the guy who gets out of his car and is there with the jack and the spare on the side of the road, people stop and say, hey, can I give you a hand? So this is kind of the same analogy that we can apply here, is when we see people who want it and are making an active participation or effort to get the help they need, we're more likely to help them than the person that's sitting there going, I'm suffering, I suck, and I don't want to be here, but they're not following it with any action. Because you can see that, I see it in these meetings especially, people are eager and they want it and they're looking for help, as opposed to waiting back for someone to come and save them. And I like the car analogy. It's always stuck with me. It is not the matter of giving that is the question, but when and how to give. That often makes the difference between failure and success. The minute we put our work on a service plane, the alcoholic commences to rely upon our assistance rather than upon God. Highlighted, underlined, and starred. We do not want to become their higher power. No human power can help them. The sponsor role gets really diluted these days because people forget this very, very important part. Our job as a sponsor is to help connect them to source power, not to rely upon us to not pick up the first drink. We can talk about that more, but just wanted to point it out. He clamors for this or that, claiming he cannot master alcohol until his material needs are cared for. Nonsense. Some of us have taken very hard knocks to learn this truth. Job or no job, wife or no wife, we simply do not stop drinking so long as we place dependence upon other people, places, or things ahead of dependence on God. Burn the idea into the consciousness of every man that he can get well regardless of anyone. I like to add anything, any place, any circumstance, regardless. The only condition is that he trusts God and clean house. Trust God because he's the only one that can give us our power, and clean house because the only thing blocking us from them is all that crap in between. Now, the domestic problem. Let's just chat about that stuff first before we move on to the domestic problem. All right, so I touched on it a little bit. First being those who want it, right? This isn't a program for people who need it. It's been said here before, it's a program for people who want it. And then it touches there a lot. We are trying to get a dependence on God. Our problem is a lack of power. We need to find a power, and that power cannot be found within ourselves or another human being. So the whole purpose of this book is to help us connect to power, to God. So my job as a sponsor is to refer to this book to help people connect to God so they are not reliant upon me, because some days I'm not going to be available, right? So I think of the day where my ex-husband passed away. That morning, my first thought was to call my sponsor, because that's what I was told. Call your sponsor, call your sponsor, call your sponsor, call your sponsor. My sponsor didn't answer. So what did I do? I called the next person. The next person said 2 sentences to me, and those 2 sentences did one thing: connected me to God. She didn't give me her experience, strength, or hope. She didn't give me her opinion of what I should do. She said 2 sentences, and it brought me to God, and off I went. I was fine. My original sponsor probably would have answered the phone and been a really great support person and listened to me and gave me her opinion and all this stuff, but it would not have connected me to God. Our job as sponsors is to help connect to God. And we can, there's times where we have to be the listener for things that are happening. Clamors happen. We get spinny sometimes, and we need to have that. But at the end of the day, if I listen to the situation, I talk a little bit about my experience, then I refer to the big book and bring them to God. I'm not hard. I'm not a hard ass. Well, I don't listen to that shit. Like, that's not my thing. But my whole role is to rightly relate my experience, bring it to the book so we can connect them to God. Because I can't be the solution for them. Some days I'm not available. And, that's just how we got to be. Melissa!
Hi, Melissa, alcoholic. Just going back over that sentence, the minute we put our work on a service plane, I was thinking, I'm a little tangled up about it, because sometimes my sponsor will say to me, I want to do some service, and she'll say, well, give people your number so that they can call you if they need someone to talk to.
I'm not a fan of that personally. It's great in early recovery when they don't have these tools, as long as the people they are calling are book-based people. If you have 10 newcomers calling 10 newcomers, guess what they're all going to be talking about? Problems. No one's going to be offering any solution.
Okay, that makes good sense. And then the other question I had were, what were the sentences, if you don't mind sharing, that connected you to God so quickly?
Oh, she said, sometimes God can't help people on earth, so he brings them home to be with him.
Oh, that's beautiful. Okay.
And what that does is it gave me a connection to God, but it also gave me an answer very simply on how to relate it to my children without them feel guilty. Because a lot of the times people would say something like, he's not suffering anymore, he's not in pain anymore, and that leaves the people that are still alive with guilt. Mm-hmm. And by doing this, it transfers all responsibility to the person who's passed away and to God. Sometimes God can't help them when they're here on earth, so he brings them home. It takes away any human power, really. And that just, it set me right. Probably one of those definitive moments that set me on a different trajectory in my recovery.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on this page? Waving hands? Nothing? Hello, Lois in the Poconos. I see you today. Good morning. Alrighty. Now the domestic problem. There may be divorce, separation, or just strained relations. Maybe. Probably. Anyways, when your prospect has made such reparation as he can do his family and has thoroughly explained to them the new principles by which he is living, he should proceed to put these actions, he should proceed to put those principles into action at home. That is, if he is lucky enough to have a home. Though his family be at fault in many respects, he should not be concerned about that. He should concentrate on his own spiritual demonstration. Argument and fault-finding are to be avoided like the plague. Easy to be said, not easy to be done. In many homes, this is a difficult thing to do, but it must be done if any results are to be expected. If persisted in for a few months, the effect on a man's family is sure to be great. The most incompatible people discover they have a basis upon which they can meet. Little by little, the family may see their own defects and admit them. These can then be discussed in an atmosphere of helpfulness and friendliness. After they have seen tangible results, the family will perhaps want to come along. These things will come to pass naturally and good time, provided, however, the alcoholic continues to demonstrate that he can be sober, considerate, and helpful, regardless of what anyone says or done. That's a good line to live by if you want to highlight that one. Of course, we all fall much below this standard many times, but we must try to repair the damage immediately, lest we pay the penalty by a spree. All right, so again, the best advice is to practice these principles in all your affairs and walk with that light, and others will just naturally come the way. Avoiding argument, avoiding retaliation, adding that 8-second pause before you react is always huge. And it's taking me 4 years of practice, and I'm still not perfect, but I've made a lot of progress. My last relationship breakup, I wanted to send that message so bad, and I paused 24 hours, and I'm telling you, it was like sitting on my thumbs, like, I couldn't pick up my phone. At some point, I was like, telling him, take my phone away from me, like, keep it, hide it for a minute, because I wanted to react, right? But there's that line. It's like, in all of our affairs, not just with our family, with our co-workers, with all sorts of people, it says, demonstrate that we can be sober, considerate, and helpful, regardless of what anyone says or does. Like, man, that's hard. That's hard to do. But literally pause, pray, proceed. And sometimes I get stuck in the pause and pray. And sometimes I just pause, but it's practice and it's hard to do. It's like bite your tongue and hide your thumbs. That's my little, bite my tongue and hide my thumbs because those get me into trouble. Marianne.
Hi, friends. I am an alcoholic from Toronto. My name's Marianne. I love that. Like instead of restraint, tongue and 10, right? I had a lesson in this weekend. I don't have an alcoholic husband, but he doesn't have a program. And I had an argument with him. And what happened was I have 3 adult children, and they want to make sure I'm in recovery and doing okay. And they asked me how I was, and I dumped on them about what was going on. But I came off the call with my daughter, and I felt really kind of not right. So I talked to one of my step 10 buddies, and she said, "Just come to me, Marianne. Do not go to them. Do not bring them involved in that." And I said, "Well, they're asking me how I'm doing. Like, do I not tell them?" And I guess I can't. If somebody doesn't have a program and know what's going on here, and just the fact that I felt bad after I talked to my daughter, and I thought, that just doesn't feel good. So, but it is tough because I don't, I want to be honest with them. Like in this situation, I wanted to be honest with them and tell them how I was feeling, but I can't just say all's good because that's not honest either. But anyway, I felt better after I talked to one of us.
Well, absolutely. And sometimes when we share our feelings, we're being a little bit manipulative. I found that as well, right? So this is just all such a learning process, and it's ebbs and flows, and stop talking with someone else that's got the solution in their lives always helps.
I know. I found it very helpful though. With this is a sick man. How can I be helpful? God save me from being angry. That does take the anger away. I had to say it a lot, but it did help.
In my early recovery, I was reminded we don't say it out loud in front of the person. Yep, that's me. And Lois.
That was cute. I can see you doing that. The thing. Well, I've got older children also, and when I speak to them, I don't get very specific. What I try to usually say is, I'm doing the best I can, or I'm working through it. I'll say something like that, but I try not to get specific because all it's going to do is make them worry, and they're not close by. So of course it's even more important to not get into everything. But like Marianne said, boy, when you got a 10th step buddy like that, and you can, talk to them, they know what's going on already. So you don't have to go into the whole thing, and you can get out of it a little quicker. But I loved when you said you have to know when and how to give in the last page that you were reading, because that's truly important. We think we're helping somebody, and sometimes if we're doing what they need to be doing for themselves, it's really hindering their sobriety. So thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Lois. Anybody else? We might finish this chapter today. Ho. If there be divorce or separation, there should be no undue haste for the couple to get together. The man should be sure of his recovery. The wife should fully understand his new way of life. If their old relationship is to be resumed, it must be on a better basis, since the former didn't work. This means a new attitude and spirit all around. Sometimes it is to the best interests of all concerned that a couple remain apart. Obviously, no rule can be laid down. Let the alcoholic continue his program day by day. When the time for living together has come, it will be apparent to both parties. Let no alcoholic say he cannot recover unless he has his family back. This just isn't so. In some cases, the wife will never come back for one reason or another. Remind the prospect that his recovery is not dependent upon people. It is dependent upon his relationship with God. We have seen men get well whose families have not returned at all. We have seen others slip when the family came back too soon. This is a tough one, huge tough one, and it's case by case. There's no rule, there's no standard. I have seen a lot of situations where there's been divorce in recovery, and I've seen situations where people do go back too soon and they relapse. All parties need to be working on some sort of a spiritual program, is all I can say in my experience. Because if the husband has the drinking problem and the wife doesn't do anything for herself, she's going to hold on to resentments and hold everything he did in the past against him. Usually there's a lot of spiritual sickness in the entire relationship, but the non-alcoholic is going to think they're the well person and will think that there's nothing wrong with them. This is my experience. This is what I've seen over and over again, and I'm just saying it so people are aware. Like I said, every situation is different. Never is there one the same. And so they all have to be dealt with separately. And there's no rule of thumb. The rule of thumb is ask God. He's who knows. He's who can guide you. Sit quietly and ask for strength and direction. And remember that your relationship with him comes first. Joe Nosey's number 5 on my list. God, recovery, and my sponsees come first. My children come second. My business comes third. My self-love fun stuff comes fourth. And Joe comes fifth. And he knows that. I'm number 4 on his list because he works a different job and it doesn't need as much babying. So God comes first. And once that's right, everything else will work itself out the way it's meant to be if you trust that first relationship first. Anne Marie.
Hi, I have a question. And I don't know if it ties in with this or not, but it occurred to me while you were reading this. This 1 year rule that we always hear about. I didn't go through rehab, so I heard about this in meetings. Don't make any major changes for the first year. What is the point of that? Because I've known situations where the best thing would have been for them to leave, but they didn't dare.
Well, we are, number 1, we're not the arbiter of anybody's sex conduct. None
I
of my
agree.
business. All my business is to lead you to God and help you apply these spiritual principles in your life. Nowhere in the big book does it say any of those things, but it gives us clear instructions on how to meditate for the ideal relationship. So if I have someone who is in new to recovery, what's going to affect them? What's going to push them away from me is if I say, you're not allowed to date in your first year if I'm your sponsor. And they're going to be like, well, he's hot and he likes me. See ya. So what's going to be more effective? More effective is going to be, you know what? It's not something I recommend because I haven't seen good things happen. This is my experience. This is what the book says we do with relationships. We'd ask God for a picture of our ideal relationship, and we're meant to grow to those ideals to find a partner who meets those ideals. So if you feel you meet your ideals and this person meets your ideals, then we'll see what happens. I'm here to support and guide you no matter what happens. And in the back of my head, I'm saying, even though I'm going to know it's going to blow up in your face. Because, really, we're not helping them if we say you're not allowed to date. They're going to do it anyways. Honestly, they're going to be like, I'm going to go find another sponsor. Bye. Or they're going to lie to you. Let's be honest. We're more helpful if we can say, okay, this has been my experience. This is what I've seen. Here to guide you and help you and support you, good or bad, to keep them to be able to come to you. Because otherwise, they're just going to go out and you're not going to be very helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't personally like those rules. I understand why. No one in their first year has grown to their ideals, and they're certainly not gonna meet someone that's in their ideals because they're really not gonna have that connection with God or have cleaned up their past well enough to be there. Like, I'll never forget, 3 and a bit years sober, my sponsor, who some of you know is a male, he would say, Kim, to calm the imperialist urge when to yield would mean heartache, working with others would say the day. Not gonna tell you a word of a lie. He must have said that to me 150 times. And I was like, fucking stop saying that, right? But what happened? Kim started to listen. I started working with others, reading the book over and over. I grew spiritually. And guess what? I met someone who did the same spiritual growth and has the same ideals as I do. And now I'm in a wonderful relationship. So it works. But someone in their first year, they're not going to be meeting their ideals. There's no way. But we can guide and support them because we know it's going to happen. Lois! And it's working with others. So it's a good question. If it comes up, ask it.
That's true, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. You know, guiding and supporting is what we're here to do, not to be the arbitrator on what their conduct is. And I myself had to go through a divorce. What I found and what I tell my sponsees is just leave your children out of any squabbles you have with the ex. In order to do that, I went to Al-Anon, and because I did that, my children have good relationship with their dad, you know, and it's not that they had to pick a side, you know, and I certainly didn't want to put them in that kind of position, and children shouldn't be in adult problems anyway, so it's best to just keep whatever conflict is going on away from the children. So thanks for letting me share.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lois. And like, my children are living proof that this program, when applied in the home, makes a world of difference. They lived in full active addiction with 2 actively addictive parents with domestic violence. And my children, if you look at pictures from them before I left, they looked sick. My kids looked physically sick from the emotional stuff that was going on at home. My change in perspective prior to my ex-husband passing away, with this program applied, my verbiage changed. The way I spoke when he would call, I would be like, I would refrain from saying what I used to say. Oh, your dad's fucked again and he's not picking you up. And my language changed to, Dad's not doing well today. That's okay. We got this. What are we going to do? What's for dinner? And it changed the dynamic. And then, so it was healthier. And then when their dad passed away, we instilled this program. The day of the funeral, Summer said, is it home group tonight? I need a meeting. That's what my 10-year-old said the day her dad was buried. So, like, now my kids are vibrant. They're like the most loving, kind kids. Like, I couldn't be more blessed. But that's a huge testament to this program in my home. Summer knows how to do a step 10, right? She knows how to work through things on a daily basis. So that's really important to know that this can be applied in the home, and it's amazing. Susan! You could probably use it in your teaching too.
You have no idea. I teach it every day. And I'm afraid some of the things they'll go, oh, stick with the winners. And someone will go home and say, oh, that's AA talk, but that's okay because they're one of us. I just wanted to say the thing about changing. I was with a toxic group of colleagues when I got sober. And so I wanted to change jobs, and I wanted to help more people. I wanted to help students. I wanted to help children. So my sponsor and I prayed, and she's got 15 years. She's solid with God, and she said, I could feel that this is a good change for you. And when I got to my new school, high school, next door was a Christian. Down the hall, my department head is a preacher's wife. Do you think God had my back? Because I had been planning my relapse, that I was going to plan it. And so it went away, the desire went away, but God put people in my life that would lift me up until I could walk alone. And my daughter at the beginning of the pandemic said, "You're so lucky to have AA and talk to these people." And everything she does, like she got a job, she was working at Holy Family with COVID patients. I said, "God's got us. We're good." And she didn't get sick. She just finished her job. She's out of the war zone. And she's now got a new job in acute care, which is addiction, at VGH. And God's got her back. And we're living the principles. It's so beautiful. Thank you.
Absolutely. And you know what? Like, the boys call them the fingerprints of God, and I call them the puzzle pieces. When you fully, like, actually start really living this way of life, the craziest shit happens. And you're just like, how? Like, how did that happen? Oh, yeah, I know how. God's got me. And you just find yourself in a plane of being helpful in all areas of your life. Like, that's when you know you're truly living in God's grace. It's like you're just kind of in these situations where you're just constantly being helpful to others, and it's just, I have no words to describe it, but it's just bizarre. Hannah, you had your hand up?
Oh, I was just going to share on the 1 year thing.
Yeah.
My sponsor, I've been in the program for about a year, but I'm just at about a month and a half of sobriety. And I, of course, met somebody in one of the meetings, and my sponsor was like, I'm not going to tell you what to do. You can do what you like, but this is my experience. And of course, I didn't listen. So I just wanted to say from personal experience, getting involved in the first year, I kind of realized that it was more like I was using this person as a drug, as a distraction. And it wasn't because I genuinely cared about the person and they didn't genuinely care about me. So I just wanted to add that in. That was my personal experience with that.
Absolutely. We know what we're talking about because most of us have done it. That's the thing. And it's like, we take, like we said, I say this all the time, the spiritual malady is that big hole and we're trying to fill it. I heard a guy share once at a quarterly, and he's like, I had this hole inside of me and it was this perfectly fit hole for a woman to fill. It's like, yeah, the booze isn't filling it anymore, so you're going to fill it with the right size person all the time. Lori?
Hi, you guys.
Hi.
Hey, I was just taking care of the kitten. She's trying to escape now. Hey, so I just wanted to say from my personal experience, because I know we're all sharing our own personal experience right now. Oddly enough, the same thing happened to me, right? And I was definitely wondering, well, I don't know what to do, and this person seems great, and do I just not date them, and do I just give everything up? And it was definitely a tough choice. But so I got sober August 2nd. August 1st, my boyfriend of 4 years broke up with me. So I got sober the next day, and so that starts to tell you how much relationships mean to me, right? I did not think that I would fall in love, that I would meet anybody for years. So I wasn't planning on it, and I was just working on my sobriety. And after about 6-7 months, I met someone, and this person and I now have a cat. We are very, very happy. He is one of the biggest gentlemen that I've ever met. He works the steps with me in our relationship. He knows that I will always put AA first, that if I need to be on meetings all day, if I need to call my sponsor, if I need to go work the steps, he's very, very understanding. And so I know that, Kimberly, you said there's no way someone could know their ideals, before the 1 year, but there's, it says, probably no human power could relieve us of our alcohol. There's that probably in there, because people like me who get sober the next day, their boyfriend breaks up with them, are one of those rare people that probably a human power could help them. get sober, because it says probably no human power can help you get sober. It doesn't say no human power could ever, never, ever help someone get sober, right? It says probably no human power could relieve us of our alcoholism. So anyway, so continuing on my story here is just to say that I am obviously someone who values relationships a lot. And I actually was in the program about 7 years ago where I wrote a list of all of the qualities and all of the, ideals, you could say, that I wanted in a man. The way that he would treat me and he would treat others, the things that he liked to do, just like what I enjoyed to do, like gardening or hiking, etc., etc. And I wrote that ideals list like 7 years ago, right? So for me, I did have experience with the program 7 years ago. So you have to keep that in mind, like that it's not like this was like the first year I've ever been exposed to the program. So that could play in part to why this has been working out so well. But I just wanted to say that, yeah, he's willing to work through the steps in our relationship. He is very respectful. He's genuinely one of the most biggest gentlemen I've ever met. He doesn't force anything on me. And he is very loving and kind to everyone. His mother's a Christian, which I don't know if that means anything to anyone, but it's just like, I just feel so much spiritual love from his family, which I've never felt from any one of my other boyfriends. So I know that, probably no human power could relieve us of our alcoholism, but let's not skip over that probably, and let's understand that God does work miracles when people really need miracles. Like, we are all miracles, right? But let's just be open-minded and understanding that, like, that is a suggestion and we should follow suggestions, right? But we can't tell others how to behave sexually or in relationships. And at the end of the day, there is a chance that things do work out. I don't know if my relationship with Roy is going to work out, but so far it's been one of the healthiest, most loving, most amazing relationships that I've ever had. And I'm very, very grateful I'm with this man today. He supports me in my career, in my AA, and in everything like that. So I just wanted to share this it is his father single. No, they're married, his mom and his dad. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. Lori, I love you. You're awesome. And Lois, you crack me up. But yeah, probably no human power could relieve us of our alcoholism. Bill didn't like to use the word never, and if he could have, he would have. But yeah, every situation is different. But as long as Roy is not your higher power and God is your higher power, you're fine. Roy is not relieving you of your alcoholism. He is supporting you on your journey of recovery, and God is your higher power. So just to clear up your wording a little bit, but I think we get your point. But, the only thing that's required is that we continue to grow along spiritual lines. So yes, there's exceptions to the rule where it works out, but you did have a foundation prior, and if you are working this program properly, as long as you're continually doing that self-check on your ideals. Like, I do my ideals all the time. I'm like, okay, because my ideals change. I do an ideals meditation for my parenting. I do an ideals meditation for my business. You can apply that principle to anything. Lois, I still cracking me up. Joanne.
Hi everyone, I'm Joanne. I'm an alcoholic addict, and I came to the program when I was 23, and that was in 81, and in 86, a young man came into the program, and he was the cousin of my best friend's boyfriend, and he had this bottom out aura, the newcomer bottom out aura, please, somebody wrap me up in your arms, and he was really cute, and I was like, oh my God, gotta stay away from him. Because he needed, we're self-centered, we feel attracted to someone and we want to act on it and all this sort of stuff. But he needed friends. He didn't need me to pursue him. And plus, he was in early recovery, and there was lots of levels of insanity there. So a couple of years later, we were just friends, and a couple of years later, we explored a relationship. And you know what I have found is that my relationships, there are people, places, and things that just really need to be separated from not drinking. And we spent 6 years being together, breaking up, being together, breaking up. And, but when we first started, I remember being in a meeting, sitting and listening to him talk. And I heard this voice, "You're going to marry him." And I was like, "Who's talking to me? What? Are you kidding me?" And I did take the eventually I walked through my fear and I got into a relationship with him, and it didn't work out. I mean, we broke up, and I remember sitting in my apartment, and he had moved out, and I was like, "God, I thought you said I was going to marry him, and he just moved out. Like, what the hell?" And but I had my foundation. That yes, this was happening, but it doesn't give me a reason to drink. And I went to meetings and I asked for help and I worked out, and eventually we came back together. The thing that I wanted to share about this story is I found this book, God Works in Mysterious Ways. I found this book that's called Off to Sea, and it was about these two people that came together, and the heart didn't fit right. And he went off to sea to find him, and she went off to sea to find her. And eventually, once they found what they needed, they came back and the heart fit better. And so the thing that I realized is that for long term, when I get married, when I decided I wanted to get married, I was in for the long haul. And I had to be prepared for the long haul, because it's not just all fun and games being married. But I had to grow up to be able to have the marriage that I wanted. And that takes coming into my own, which my sponsor calls, redefines the word intimacy as into me see. And I had to go learn about me. And the more I learned about me, the more I could say, this is what I will accept and this is what I can't accept. And he did that for him. And we've been married 25 years. And we live and let live. And he's very different than I am. And I am not defined by my husband. I get to stand on my own 2 feet, have my own opinions in AA meetings, and I share my experience, strength, and hope. And he goes to his meetings and he does his thing. And together we work a program and we work our marriage. But the bottom line is, if you love and sometimes it doesn't work out and you're in a lot of pain, don't drink, because you get to take those lessons and eventually you'll find somebody else and you'll unpack those lessons and you'll have your experience. And if it doesn't work out, you don't drink and you pack those lessons and you take it on. And eventually you find someone that feels like home, and then you unpack and you stay home. That's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Joanne. Just a little fun chat in the chat about dating apps. Dating apps, it's really hard to find your God ideals on. You can find your personal ideals, looks, personality, jobs, social status, but really hard to find your God ideals on a dating app. That's lots of the time your will. Been there, done that. I think I've made every mistake in recovery and dating, but we do that. That's how we learn. And another one, God does not send you the perfect partner in the form of somebody else's. Just saying. Okay, Leslie G.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. I'm not talk about this subject in the meeting. Another word that has helped me tremendously in this area is boundaries and healthy boundaries. Yeah, I had to read a whole book separate as an outside resource because I had no clue how to set a healthy boundary when I first got here. I was in a long-time relationship with someone in the program. They became a raging dry drunk. And I had to end it. And then he called me up a couple years later, and I had changed a lot, and I had new boundaries. And I thought, okay, I'll just try this out. And it's all good, and it all felt natural. That's another word that I love sharing when I am talking with people about Al-Anon. It feels natural. And slowly but surely, he just wanted the old me back. But because I had those healthy boundaries, I wasn't all tore up about it. And I moved on, and I still would help the man because I know he's suffering. And that's so different for me to try again with someone that was the first time I ever had. And to still have I had him blocked for a while, but now I've unblocked him. And I would help him get help. And it's all in the big book if I need to go read and then talk to other people who are doing the same thing. So thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you so much. And yeah, in speaking on relationships, we got off, but it's all working with others. I find it very, very helpful to list your boundaries, your intentions, and your needs, especially your intentions when dating, especially if we're new to this process. I don't know about you, but I was one of those, well, my intentions are I want a relationship. And the guy would say, well, I don't want a relationship. I just want to date and casually do this and that. And then all of a sudden, that's what I wanted too. But in the back of my mind, I was like, but he's going to fall in love with me and think I'm amazing. And then he's going to want a relationship. No, honey, he just told you he's not interested in a relationship. His intention is just to mess around with you. Shut the delusion off in your head. So my intention is very important. Boundaries, intentions, and needs, right? It's okay to say them. If they're not good with them, he's not good for you. Just saying. Okay, we got 5 minutes. Do we read the next 3, 4 pages, or do we save it for next time? I say we save it for next time because we do good discussion. All right, so we're going to turn off this recording.